I'm not having with you right now, Walter.
Jesse! We need to cook, Jesse. People, it is spooky season and Halloween is just around the corner. I am just so incredibly Halloween pilled this year that I am finding loads of candy corn in my stool. I mean, I haven't eaten any candy corn. I should go see a doctor. All right, I'm back from the doctor, and he said I had a Franken fever. Just kidding, it was hemorrhoids. Anyways, what better way to celebrate Halloween than with a Biscuit Sticks Halloween special? Today I'll be taking 10 Baldur's Gate 3 characters and ranking them from only kind of spooky all the way to can I even show this on YouTube? Personally, I don't think Baldur's Gate 3 gets enough credit for being a really dark fantasy type game. I remember my very first time playing Baldur's Gate 3 and being incredibly disturbed that my first encounter was this twitching exposed brain. I'll also give you a quick lore dump, so maybe you'll actually learn something new about these characters, who knows? No more stalling, let's jump right on in so I can take these glasses off. They are someone else's prescription and they're giving me a migraine. But first, a word from our sponsor. Before I ever became a content creator, I worked full-time as a private investigator, primarily helping people who had become victims of identity theft. Many of them would innocently be browsing the internet and somewhere along the way would accidentally download malware without even knowing it. This would either start a chain of social engineering that would eventually lead the victim to sharing sensitive information with the fraudster, or the fraudster would just gain remote access to the computer and steal the files. If even one of these unfortunate victims had just used NordVPN, the malware would have never ended up on their computer in the first place. Nord isn't just the fastest VPN on the planet, it also comes with a service known as Threat Protection Pro. This ensures that while you're browsing the internet and downloading files, you're not picking up malware along the way. I download a lot of mods for my games, which of course puts me at risk, but with the browser extension, I know that I'm protected. NordVPN also comes with a dark web monitoring service. Simply type in your email, and Nord compares the credentials to known data breaches and sketchy websites that share stolen data. Here is why that is such a game changer. Let's say 5 years ago, you created an online account with poopandstuff.com. If they suffer a data breach and your information is exposed, and you're the type of person that uses the same login credentials for everything, they now have your login for not just that account, but all your accounts. With the dark web monitoring service, you'll be notified of any data breaches so that you can change your password. Then with NordPass, you can have all the security that comes with a plethora of different complicated passwords without the stress of having to micromanage each and every one of them. Nord is seriously so much more than just a VPN. So head on over to nordvpn.com/biscuitsticks. Using my link, you'll get access to an exclusive deal in 4 extra months. And of course, it's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Cybersecurity is something I really take seriously, and you should too. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video, NordVPN. Now back to the video. Vivisection day today. Showed no signs of pain as I was unraveling the long intestine, but instead grabbed the organ as if it were a rope, reached to wrap it around my neck as if to strangle me, but all the strength in its poor arms is quite gone. Had to thread the guts back into the body. We'll try again another day. Cressa Bonedaughter wasn't always a mistress of souls in the cult of Merkel. Many years ago, her and her husband were simple country surgeons in Nashkel. Their insatiable hunger for curing any mortal wound eventually drove them to their involvement with Merkel and the Chosen. While conducting her research on mind flayer parasites, Cressa would come across a certain victim on the brink of death. She quickly discovered that this pawn was not normal, as its resilience far surpassed that of her other victims. Cressa is described as opening them up endlessly in pursuit of her tadpole research. She was more than obsessed with her brand new toy, and her husband became so worried for her that he even warned Balthazar of her exploits. This resulted in the body being shipped away on a nautiloid. Cressa was inconsolable, but continued to infect hundreds, if not thousands of creatures with tadpoles, always remembering one of her first. Who was this mysterious victim that survived endless torture at the hands of Cressa Bonedaughter? On a normal playthrough, you'd never find out. Speaking with her results in either a fight or a blessing from Merkel if you can pass a deception check. But if you were to play as the Dark Urge, she lights up the second she recognizes you.
Wait! By the Bone Lord, it's you! I thought I'd never see you again.
You were my very first, after all. I learned everything about the parasites from you. We had such a close bond. I opened you up endlessly with my scalpels and got lost in your insides.
Ethel finds herself on this list not because she has the most atrocious of deeds committed, but because her very existence is derived from folklore that is the very essence of Halloween and everything spooky. The entire feel of Ethel's home in the swamps oozes fairy tale-esque writing. The swamp is covered in a beautiful illusion that fades away when her true form is revealed. In her basement, you can even find the poor saps who dared to make a deal with this vile green hag.
My sweet Callum, whose beloved asked that his beauty never fade. My darling Magron, she wished for the mind of a genius, but the silly head crossed me. This poor dear wished never to lay eyes on her family again. My dearest Ephraim, he begged me to halt the deadly disease that ravaged him. My gentle Lauren, he wished to know what was to come. A thief who tried to steal from Auntie. Now the good little pet guards my home.
One element of Ethel's life still remains a mystery to this day. Within the letters found in Ethel's workshop, we see her writing to a sister located in Baldur's Gate, initialed only as M. Many have theorized that this is likely another hag hidden in Baldur's Gate pretending to be a human. It's likely just cut content, but personally, I think it's Mawolbrin Bongle. Let's kill him just to be safe. Mystic Carrion is a deadly and powerful mummy lord located in the lower city of Baldur's Gate. He finds himself on the list primarily due to mummies being iconic for Halloween, but also because mummy lords can be incredibly formidable foes in combat. While they may be a bit lackluster in Baldur's Gate 3, they're a serious force to be reckoned with in a D&D campaign. At one point, Mystic Carrion was perfectly content to remain in the bowels of his subterranean crypt, where he unraveled the very mysteries of life and death. But as time went on, he developed a taste for the finer things in life and made his ascent to the surface to become a spirit medium. A few notes found throughout Baldur's Gate indicate some of the services he's provided. Dearest Miss Vervoss, I so appreciated the desperation of your correspondence. Heartbreak can impose such a terrible burden. In my humble role as an interlocutor with the spirit realm, I believe I might be able to offer you some reprieve. To the esteemed Lord Nexum, please allow me to offer my sincere and heartfelt condolences. To lose both of one's parents in such rapid succession is truly an agony for which there is no balm. Fortunately, I believe my spirits and I are able to soothe your anxieties with regards to their missing will. When it comes to matters of inheritance, the dead always prove most eager to clarify their intent. While it may seem Mystic Carrion is providing a valuable service for mourning widows and widowers, he's also a bit of a scam artist. When clients cannot pay his overpriced fees, he harasses them until the debt is fulfilled, and that's when his consultations actually work. A note found in a random barrel reads, I did exactly as you asked. I wore garlic mittens overnight, doused my floor with honey, and set alight a candle infused with malefic mead, and all I got was a raging headache and a stomach ache. Not a single whisper of word from my departed wife. Did I do something wrong? I'll stop by again. Perhaps you might instruct me with your wisdom once more. While Karnas himself may not have much lore in the Forgotten Realms, Driders in general do, and it is beyond interesting. Driders are drow elves that have failed Lolth in some manner and are subsequently distorted and malformed into the shape we see here. While the shape of the Drider resembles that of the drow's god, they are considered outcasts and a constant reminder of what happens to those who step out of the Spider Queen's favor. If Driders are denizens of the Underdark, how did Karnas find himself on the surface under the Absolute's control and so far from his home? Little is known of his past, except that once Lolth had turned her back on him, he was saved by the Absolute, likely after the tadpole had been inserted. He's obviously unknowing of the true nature of his newfound god, but has become so devoted to her that he sacrifices his life willingly at her perceived command. To primary reason Karnas is on the list is due to the sheer horrific beauty of his model in-game. There are tons of illustrations of Driders throughout books and video games, but Larian's version is currently the most terrifying. 8 long, sharp legs pour out of his vile, quivering thorax, adorned with a stinger ready to strike at a moment's notice. A thick, tough carapace covers his drow upper body, while a bizarre tangle of blinking eyes strike fear into any who gaze upon them. It makes me wonder what sort of person was Karnas before his judgment. Was he an ardent supporter of Lolth who failed in a test of strength? Was he a kind-hearted drow that defied the Spider Queen's bidding? We may never know, but thanks for the farting pixie. Deep within the shadowed vale of Wraithwind Town sits an undead bartender who spends his days cooking up only the most vile of poisons and substrates.
You will soon quaff as I do.
With a gargantuan bulging belly just on the cusp of bursting, 4 stubby legs and a tail also struggle to keep the monster held upright. It's difficult to ascertain what exactly Thisibald Thorm is. The entirety of the Thorn family are listed as some variation of elves, but it's unclear whether they are actual blood relatives, as neither Ketheric nor Isabel speak to having any other siblings or children. With this in mind, we can assume that Thisibald may have been a centaur before the shadows defiled his body. Our barfing bartender is more than just an accomplished chemist as well. He was also astonishingly good at gathering information, either through truth serums or just allowing his patrons to drink themselves silly. Not only is he one of the very few to know of Ketheric's immortality, but in a shipment letter he writes, "The mason caught my eye. Straight are his steps and faithful are his words, for as long as drink does not touch his tongue. 2 drops of Blackfire whiskey and he sings his heart's true tune. He calls father a tyrant, a coward, a traitor. He beseeches the Moon Maiden to shine upon him once more. Dangerous words. I have told father. He will surely silence the mason and make him an example. Meanwhile, the mason drawls his heresy. It is all I can do not to mock him to his very face." Withers is a god of dead long forgotten by our books.
So, you're the lick-spittle who crushed the Bone Lord's throne. Have you come begging, sniffing for our stones? Gortash won't like that.
Simply hearing the vile words that spill from her mouth is enough to understand that Orin the Red is one of the most disturbing beings to ever grace the Sword Coast. Covered from head to toe in a hard, fleshy carapace, this ballspawn has honed every sinew in her body for one singular purpose: murder. As we learn more of Orin's lineage, it's no wonder she became the agent of slaughter that she is today. After Saravok's resurrection in the Throne of Bhaal, he'd returned to the city of Baldur's Gate to start yet another cult following under the Lord of Murder. Having used changelings in the past to almost procure a spot on the Council of Four, it's no surprise that after his return, he sired a child with one. His daughter, Helena, was as devoted and dedicated as Saravok could have ever hoped for. However, it was not enough. The Ballspawn lineage had almost been wiped out in recent events, and it was time to make more. Using himself as a catalyst, Saravok planted Baal's seed into his own daughter. Born from this vile and incestuous act was a fair changeling girl, Orin the Red. While Orin is still but a child, Helena would grow blind with rage upon learning that instead of her, Orin was becoming Baal's chosen. After convening with her father, Helena would find out that the only way to curry favor with the Lord of Murder was to take the life of her own child. Helena grossly underestimated her daughter, and the result of the fight is on display in the Baalist Temple as a reminder to Orin of her deadly prowess.
For he who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself becomes a monster.
Baal's avatar has taken many different forms throughout the centuries he's ruled as the god of murder. In life, his slayer form would resemble a massive corpse with a feral face, pale white skin, and gaping wounds that continuously wept dark ichor. The corpse would surround itself with a circle of bone daggers that would seek out its targets. If they connected, the very flesh of the victim would wilt and die like a rose in winter. After the daggers succeeded in dispatching a mortal, the corpse would rise from the dead, capable of then exploding themselves in a mass of bone shards and viscera. After Baal was subsequently murdered, a select few of his spawn were able to conjure an avatar form as well, albeit much weaker. In Baldur's Gate 2, we see the Slayer form as it resembles the likeness of a pit demon, and if you follow the story all the way to the Throne of Baal expansion, you can even witness the avatar's strongest form, known as the Ravager. Its most recent iteration depicts a monstrous lizard-like creature twice the size of any one man. 4 gargantuan arms protrude from its thin body, with claws the size of a halfling's arm, waiting to eagerly plunge into the flesh of anyone unfortunate enough to witness the transformation. The Slayer finds itself on the list not only for the fear its visage strikes into us, but also the sheer amount of destruction that these beings have wrought throughout Faerûn. While Ketheric and his cultists refer to him as Balthazar, it's merely a moniker he stole when he grafted the ribcage of a dead Baal spawn into his own body. His true name is unknown. The dedicated follower of Merkel finds himself this high on the list for both his terrifying looks, but also his wicked power over undeath. To start, his voice sounds as if he's speaking through an empty void. If you listen closely, you can even hear the wet sounds his wounds make as he wags his depraved tongue.
I am Balthazar, chief advisor to General Thorn, and entrusted with a mission of utmost importance.
In terms of power, he ranks even above the mistresses of souls in Merkel's following. With one simple spell, he's capable of summoning a small army of powerful undead to fight at his side in the Shadowfell. His necromantic powers are so awesome, he was even able to bring his stillborn twin back to life. Balthazar was also instrumental in the settling of the Mind Flayer colony located below Moonrise, where he eventually set up a lab that hosted experiments I can only imagine desecrated the very essence of life. The amount of fear this master of undead imposes on me is rivaled by only one other person. Malice takes the top spot solely because of the cutscene that plays when we first encounter him. It's so incredibly unnerving and hard to watch that I'm certain I can't show it in this video. Just like all the others on the list, Malice's story isn't as shallow as you may think. We can assume that before he dedicated his life to his nephew Ketheric and Lady Shar, that Malice was once a hard-working surgeon that held himself to the same code that all other medical practitioners did in Faerûn. But as Ketheric came to embrace the teachings of the Dark Lady more and more, so did his uncle. A letter from one of his nurses reads, "We have reached dire times in Wraithwyn. War has come. Do you not teach that it is our duty to mend all who break, comfort all who ail, without regard for the gods they worship or the champions they heed? Yet our surgeon, Malice Thorm, abides by his own creed, the will of Shar, he might say, and I dare not argue with him or any Thorm. He allows supplies to dwindle, leaves some patient's injuries to fester so he may study, and even commands me to nurse only dark justiciars that seek treatment. Eventually, the darkness would fall over this land, and even his kind-hearted nurses would be malformed into unrecognizable soulless husks." And that concludes the Biscuit Sticks Halloween special. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed yourself. If you disagree with my placement or I missed your favorite spooky character, I encourage you to let me know in the comments. Why not stick around though and hit that subscribe button as well? Ooh, look at that, it's even lighting up. Huge shout out to the members, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Members get access to perks like ad-free access to our regular uploads and a members badge. If you're interested in becoming a member, check the description for more details. I'll see you all in the next one. Later.